This is episode number 7 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, tech entrepreneur and fitness enthusiast, alongside Michael Anders and Jason Sani. Each week we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our 4 pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Today we are going to talk about we're going to touch on a little bit of programming and really focus on periodization versus muscle confusion, and how too much of one or the other can actually inhibit your progress in the gym. And especially for us in the CrossFit community, it's a methodology that's kind of, established itself on the principle of not doing anything specific as a means to make you the most well-rounded athlete you can be. Something I don't necessarily prescribe to in its entirety, but a lot of people take that as gospel and don't really understand how to truly apply it. So, even though you're doing a ton of different stuff, you're not necessarily giving your body a chance to adapt if you follow, it to the letter. So we're going to touch on that today and really, dive into what's the goods, the bads, the do's, the don'ts as far as periodization and programming is concerned.
Awesome. And, I want to hit on the topics of differentiating the different types of programming. So, just for example, you got tons of different trainers, you have tons of different gym options or CrossFit gyms you can go to, and often a lot of things get thrown into a specific stereotype, especially with CrossFit. You think everybody says, oh, that's a good way to get injured, or it's going to do this, it's going to do that. But it's like, yeah, it's true that people are able to obtain their, these certifications and able to come into coaching without a lot of hands-on experience or proving that they've gotten results. But what does make a big difference is the programming, and that's something that you can usually see based on the results that people are getting and, the outcome. And the different difference makers, I think, of working in a specific programming and trusting the process. Whereas it's so common to walk into a gym or a class and just go based on the feeling, like, oh, that workout didn't feel like it was enough for me, and unfortunately, we've touched on this on a topic before when it comes to training. It's like, it's that instant gratification. People want to sell you what feels like it's working, giving you that big burn, getting your heart beating out of your chest. And they think that that's the answer to build muscle and burn fat and get you results. But, there's certainly a ridiculous amount of experience and strategic planning to get your body to adapt properly.
Yeah, we've all seen it, as we move from one genre of fitness to the other, going from, one of the big 5 sports, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever, into, something more compartmentalized like bodybuilding, where you're isolating muscle groups and, manipulating workouts based on the, what you're looking at from an aesthetic standpoint. And then you move into something like CrossFit, where it hangs its hat on the randomness of every single workout. What in that randomness, what I don't think a lot of people understand is it's you're using different energy systems from one workout to the next. The workout in and of itself isn't what makes it random. The stimulus is actually the energy system that you're using from one day to the next. That's why you can, do 5 or 6 full cleans at 90% on Monday, and then come in and do, 5 sets of 6 reps at 80% on your back squat on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday come in and do Karen, which is 150 wall balls. You're squatting in all 3 of those workouts, but the energy system you're using with which to perform those workouts is what makes the difference. And that's the part I think everybody gets hung up on, the randomness of it all, but it's not necessarily the workout or the movement in particular, but the energy system that you're using in that movement.
And let's just touch on what we like. The meaning of all this is understanding how you're making progress,
Mhm.
And so when we think about programming and periodization, connect that term with the whole idea of your progress. Are you trying to get bigger, faster, stronger? Or are you going for more of that aesthetic appeal? Or are you just trying to build your endurance? And that's where there's a big difference maker. And so if you can connect with this, maybe you've gone in and done something consistently and haven't gotten the results you want. Maybe it's because you're just, throwing something blindly,
Mhm.
into the air and hoping it's hitting something. So the programming it's a proven method, and there's tons of different methods that if you follow that, it's going to
Mhm.
create a progressive overload. Just think of your body's adapting to get better at something that it's doing. So, um, so we can talk about some different examples, maybe some common experiences. I mean, let's just share, Jeff, with your experience from, football, getting into bodybuilding or so on. What comes to your mind when you think programming, or was it something that like you just went in and were trying to do as much positive work and be productive and thought that you'd walk out with the results?
Yeah, starting out, especially when starting out with football, going back to those days, I was just going in there just like it's time to just go wreck something. You hit the big three, you get your bench press, you get the squats, and we were doing cleans, I think, in high school. But we didn't hit anything else. So all I knew in high school was just like, oh, this is all we need to get lift. Like I don't need any accessory movements, none of this. Going into college, I became a little bit more mature to the process because I studied how to work out. Of course, had the Arnold Bible of bodybuilding,
Mhm.
and started learning all the different movements to help your body um, come together and create the physique that you're looking for. And now I find myself at a stage in CrossFit to where I still don't completely understand how to program workouts. Like what I just can't walk in the gym and be like, oh, I'm gonna go do this and handstand push-ups and that. So I've been taking this entire year or a year and a half that I've been doing CrossFit and studying each workout from day to day, saying how like just trying to like reverse engineer like why do you set these days up like this, like because I've come from a mindset of like when we were bodybuilding, it's like okay, you do shoulders Monday, boom, you hit chest what the next day, then it's legs, then you rest and you do back, and then with like going into CrossFit, and that's why it was such like sort of like groundbreaking what you were just saying earlier, how you're using different energy systems. Because came when I first started, I came with the mindset of like, okay, we just did shoulder to overheads, why are we doing like why are we doing wall balls again today? Like my shoulders are taxed. Like won't I jack myself up? So it's just trying to learn how things are working together now. So each different phase has been a new learning process for me. And currently CrossFit's like it sort of shifted my mind to how your body can really work very well during the week by even hitting the same body part simultaneously. But even they said using different energy systems. So I think that's interesting to learn about.
Yeah, I my approach to CrossFit, because truth be told, back in my bodybuilding days when I was in the Marine Corps, I was one of the biggest CrossFit haters because all I saw was a bunch of idiots coaching idiots. A bunch of people who didn't have a whole lot of knowledge or a whole lot of experience, who had been doing CrossFit, but I wouldn't necessarily classify them as people that were able to coach CrossFit effectively, and just saw a lot of um, you know bad practice on the coaching side that I didn't necessarily want to uh, be associated with, and that has since evolved quite a bit where the consumer has become educated and they walk into a box now, and it's been my experience in the last 12 to 18 months where people walk into the gym and they want to know about the programming. They want to know about the environment and how classes are orchestrated and stuff like that. So they're asking very intelligent questions um, with regards to what they're about to be getting themselves into and what they're paying for. And I approach CrossFit from a standpoint that my metric for success for the gym is I've pinpointed our most consistent members, and my metric for success is when we test either a lift or a particular workout. Uh, if 85% of that consistent base doesn't PR, then I have failed in my ability to program, and I need to break it down, and rebuild it as we move from one phase to the next. And it's been my philosophy as a strength and conditioning coach that it's a lot easier from a time standpoint, time served, to become conditioned than it is to become strong. It takes the body a hell of a lot longer to adapt to heavier loads on a consistent basis than it does to increase output at moderate loads over time. So I program in a fashion where we'll do 8 to 12 week blocks where the majority of the class is geared towards strength and accessory stuff. And then we'll do 6 to 8 week blocks where the WODs and the metabolic conditioning are a little bit longer, low skill, high volume type stuff. And along the way, we're incorporating gymnastics progressions and stuff like that and teaching people the high skill movements and techniques, so that as our members and athletes progress, so does the complexity of the program.
Mm. Yeah, that's important for people to identify uniquely where they're at in a stage as well, to understand that the programming for everybody, although the algorithm or the formula may work, like those specific numbers might not necessarily be for you, and that's where your ego can get you in trouble, or you might not be doing enough of the work to get the results that you want. And I think there's just, if somebody's interested in making changes, it's worth putting in the research or following a program for a period of time so you can buy into it, rather than the whole idea of what you see on like TV and gimmicks of just like muscle confusion, and it's more to that. I feel like there's a relevant amount of organized confusion. Yes, you're changing things up, but you're not changing it just to surprise your body and get your body to adapt. It's progressively overloading your body in different ways, so it forces it to adapt to these different situations. So that being said, it's something to think about. Like, when are you? And I think it's part of the reason I think CrossFit and everything appeals to a lot of people. Like, are you aware of where your PR is at, or how your body can perform under these different types of conditions? So it's like something I challenge to these people is, find out what works for you, and then start somewhere. And it's the same thing with like journaling. We talked about it with diet and nutrition. The same thing goes with training. You don't need to be the guy that has his journal out in between every single set, unless that's what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. But are you tracking your progress and giving you something that you can measure?
There's a lot of tools out there that assist with that process. Like, I know in my programming for the gym, we do a lot of relative training. So, and what that means is, instead of saying giving the gym a finite number, so everybody's gonna do 4 sets of 8 at 200 pounds on a given lift, we train at percentage. Mm-hmm. So everybody is PR'd during, or tested their 1 rep max, to 3 rep max, so on and so forth throughout the year, and that's recorded in our system. And by virtue of that, now I can program. Okay, today I can program intensity. So today we're going to do 5 sets of 4 at 80% on a given lift. And I've even gone a step further in the programming now, as our athletes have dictated and shown that, given them the intention of every workout. So not only are we training at percentage on a different lift to help develop strength, position, and technique, but when we get into the workout of the day, the WOD, the AMRAP, the 21-15-9 of it all, now if a given workout is prescribed at 135 pounds, well, now there's rules to the game associated with this workout. So you should be able to hit so many reps unbroken. If you can't do that, scale yourself down. Or if you can do that, let's say the workout is intended for you to finish in 6 minutes and you're smashing it in 3.5. Well, now you can scale up so that everybody's finishing in the same time domain. And what that allows to do, now everybody's getting the intended metabolic response. So even though everybody's using a different load or a different scale of movement, they're getting the same response from their body. So they're experiencing the same level of difficulty as well.
Right.
A challenge.
Yeah, and let's think about that. So we say difficulty, and that's something to to make sure that people understand the definition to that. And this is kind of my approach to training used to be train myself to be as uncomfortable as possible. That's the way I looked at it, so that if I was put in a situation, I would be ready to be able to kind of get used to it. So you're training yourself to go through pain. Like, you put your music on, your playlist on, and see how hard can I push myself, which, that's great if that's your outlet, but there's a lot of times where you're spinning your wheels that way, and and now that research is out, there's such a better way to go about things. We can choose, for example, like training based on your heart rate, and training based on these different, your VO2 max, where you don't need to go and just destroy yourself. You can do it in more strategic parts of time, and understanding that is extremely important, because there's danger zones of, you have kind of that lower zone, your heart rate zone of, we'll say 65-70% or so, where your body can function in that and use fat as energy. Whereas if you're floating in the middle before your max for too long, let's say you're just always training in this like 80% zone, it can create excess inflammation, which can inhibit how your body's actually going to recover, and it can create extra stress. And you see this a lot with people that don't have a consistent plan. They go in and they think they're going to make up for this lost time that they have. And you get to see these people in your gym. They'll walk in and they just lay it all out in the line, and they're dead after. Maybe they can do that for a couple days at a time or so, and then it hits them, and it can actually work against them at times, because that's stress. You know what I mean? And there's good stress that your body can adapt to. There's complementary stress and uncomplimentary. But a lot of people are kind of revenge working out, trying to outwork all those calories or whatever, thinking that's going to just turn it into muscle and get stronger. But, it's really understanding that it's a method of getting to know yourself, and creating a better relationship with all of that.
Right. And I think starting out, I can come from that standpoint of where I was the foolish guy, no, from a standpoint of when it came to just working out, because boom, I saw myself like, okay, I'm in shape. So I went to crush like every single workout. You know what I mean? It's like, if I did chest, like, okay, I do 5 sets. That felt good. Now let's do 5 more sets of it, just because I feel so good, right? And I would end up having to be in the gym from 1 hour to like, my gym sessions would be 3-hour gym sessions, just because I felt good. And they would be every single day. But it came to a point to where I didn't feel like I was affecting my body, but then I would go show up to camp in the fall, take off on a sprint, and blow my hamstring out. Like, what the hell happened? Like, I was just in like the best shape of my life during the summer, and now all this shit's falling apart on me. And I think that was just from my inexperience of understanding that you don't have to overtax your body, because once I got a little bit older, I started tapering back to workouts where the 3 hours then turned into like maybe a 1-hour session a day. And I wasn't doing as much volume, or even if I did do volume, I said, okay, this is my set number of reps and sets I'm going to do, and I'm done. And I found out my body grew better doing that, just from not overworking it from an essence of just like understanding that, man, treat it like a marathon, not like a sprint. And I think early on I came in with a lot of ego lifting, and that caused a lot of my problems, I would say, for my body, because I was popping hamstrings left and right, and I didn't know why the hell it was happening.
If I could get people to adopt a school of thought when it comes to any training methodology, be it bodybuilding, CrossFit, Zumba, Orange Theory, whatever, it would be adopting that marathon mentality. Too many people, come into the gym and they see the more advanced people, and they're like, that's where I want to be tomorrow, completely disregarding the fact that a lot of those people have hours and hours and hours, months and years of time served before they got to this space that facilitate them able to handle that output day in and day out. It goes back to that 10,000 hour rule. If you read if you read The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, he dedicates an entire section of the book to this, and they say to establish any expertise in a given modality, it takes 10,000 hours, 10,000 reps, 10,000 something, right, to be truly proficient at any one thing.
To create mastery.
To create mastery. And if you're only at, hour 20, don't hold yourself to the standard is somebody who's at hour 9,999.
But also, I have to add in really quick. This is important because he's had a follow up to that since then, and there's been some other psychologists that have came out and mentioned this. People think like, all right, if I do 10,000 hours or something, I can essentially master it. Now they're breaking down this whole new theory of more defined, they call it like deep work practice, like specific work. So it's like, and we've seen this, there's people that do things, just because you drive, you have 10,000 hours worth of driving does not make you a better driver. Actually, sometimes you're a worse driver compared to somebody that's newer to it. So they've broken down the research with people like Tiger Woods and Kobe and Jordan. Like, these guys didn't just put in hours, they put in specific types of hours. And I think this is where the reason I want to bring this up is where it's relevant with the programming is like, you're right. The guy that went into the gym, we all know people that have been working out for 10, 15 years. Like, they got a lot of miles on there. But they don't make the different progress, so they're not working out smart. They're not in tune. They're not following. And it's not all genetics. I've seen guys just decide to finally swallow their pride and go get a coach and change the game. And you see that a lot. And so the point is, like, really understanding that it's the combination of the hours that you can't just compare yourself to somebody else, but a specific specific type of
Yeah,
work.
no, that's a very good point. You have to, putting in simply the time isn't the answer either. You have to, devote that quality effort on top of the time while you're spending the time that's really going to drive the results. So like right now we're doing a lot of position work, and me and my coaches make it a point to make sure that we all understand where the programming is going, so that when in the inevitable case that somebody asks why we're doing this shit, you have an intelligent, logical answer for what we're doing and how long we're going to be doing it. So right now we're doing a lot of pause work, right? At somewhere in that 60 to 80% range, and really challenging our athletes' ability to hold position and really drive mechanics. And it's a very boring, arduous process. It's extremely uncomfortable for a lot of people, but ultimately it's necessary. So when we start moving those loads faster and heavier, your body is now systemically able to handle the demands that you're putting on it. But if you don't spend that focused time on these elements to drive performance later, as soon as you start introducing speed with faulty mechanics, that's when people start to get hurt. And like, it's that issue that took me so long to really get into CrossFit, because everybody was all about moving heavy shit really fucking fast without taking the time to slow down, fix position, develop mechanics, and then introduce speed. And a lot of people, won't put their ego aside because they want to focus on programming the big and sexy, the hard, make your heart pop type workouts, instead of actually caring for your members and your athletes and showing them and being able to articulate that, like, this is going to suck, it's probably going to be boring, but understand that it's only temporary and it's going to make you better on the back end, and you program accordingly to prove it, so they know over the long term, the longer they're with you, the next time we hit this phase, they're like, okay, I understand, this is how it's going to get me better. And then your community begins bringing people into that circle, and now that everybody's read in on where the programming is going, and they can speak intelligently to it, instead of it coming from the top down, now it's coming from the community, because now everybody's dialed in.
I like that.
That's hot. I want to add in quickly, just thinking about all that with community. And I think that's something that, from an approach of, if you have a gym or you have something, like, have a book, open that up, so when a new member comes in and they're interested, maybe they're on the fence about joining, like, show them the results hands-on that they've seen, that, like, we measure progress. A byproduct of progress probably is going to give you some of the results you're looking for, whether you're looking to get more lean, healthy, more mobile, the ability to do more, and be able to show people and document that process. And I feel like that is something that has long-term staying power with gym, and adds so much more value to whatever you're doing. I know that if I was looking for a place, like, it's one thing to be in an environment that's fun, but I'm addicted to progress. I feel like in every area of your life, like, you can be progressing, learning more, and doing more. And it's like, and when you can show that to people and say there's the rhyme and a reason to it, I think that builds a lot of respect, and that in combination with a great atmosphere is a recipe for success.
Yeah, because as far as programming is concerned, I think that's the easiest thing to do in any genre of fitness is to make a really hard workout. But hard is not synonymous with effective,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when we're talking about stimulating results and guaranteeing progress, right? Regardless of what your frame of thought is, where your perspective comes from, if you're just in love with the randomness of CrossFit or you're very systematic about the way that you program, it doesn't matter what camp you reside in, as long as there's a logical intent that drives results, you're going to be in a good spot. But I think across the board, in the fitness industry at large, there's just too much of that where, the focus is on making it really fucking hard instead of stimulating progress. And if you can't speak intelligently to how you program, like you just look at a lot of set and rep schemes and, ooh, well, this is really challenging on .com. You fall in love with the randomness, but you don't have any justification for why you're putting your people through that process. And I think that's the key to programming and periodization is understanding the intended response you want to get from this period of programming. And then you're free to mix it up however much you want, because now you have an understanding of what the hell is actually happening.
Right. I like that.
Well, let's give some examples of common programming and what people can expect to find out. Maybe someone that's newer that's not really familiar with how it all works. Jeff, either one of you guys, if you want to share, like, what's an example of a program that that people are familiar, with, and with football stuff like bigger, faster, stronger is like what people think of, like it's a rep scheme or like a periodization. But do you want to break down an example maybe of somebody new to it, what they could expect and the difference, or maybe when it clicked through to you that there was a difference?
Let me think. That's a good question, because the only thing that comes to my mind is that the conversation you and I had about that squat program.
Oh, the small off
program.
Fuck. Yeah, I just wrote a blog about that.
Yeah, and that's because I don't know why this keeps popping to my mind where you see that type of program, and with Durs and I had a good conversation. I don't know if you were a part of it, Jason. Is that people jump into this small off squat program and they don't understand that that's going to be the main focus of their programming for that period of time. Instead of saying, I'm going to do small off and I'm going to do WODs on top of this, instead of just prioritizing doing just that squatting program and jumping into all these other alternative lifts and not making that your main priority. I don't know if you can expand on a little bit further, Durs, but
yeah. So just rolling with that example, the small off cycle is an Eastern European, Russian if I'm not mistaken, squat protocol designed as an accessory program, believe it or not, for Olympic caliber lifters. So this is designed for a camp of athletes that all they do is eat, sleep, and train. They don't have any real jobs. They don't have bills to worry about. They all live in a dorm. They do everything together. It's a very federation style program, and it's 13 weeks long, and there's periods of the cycle where you're working at 90% of your 1 rep max for sets of 3 to 5 reps, which for the average Joe is outright physically impossible. And when you subscribe to programming like that, it's important that you understand who that programming is intended for. Right. That is not for somebody who has a 9 to 5 and enjoys doing CrossFit every day. I can't think off the top of my head anybody that I know personally that has made it all the way through a small off cycle without either hurting themselves or burning out along the way. Just because the demands are so high.
I've talked to somebody midway through it, and if you look at it on paper, it doesn't look that overwhelming. But I've talked to somebody, and I didn't talk to him after how he finished up, but he said he was loving the results.
Mm-hmm.
The volume of it is it's a little, it tricks you a little bit.
Yeah, because you're spending 30 seconds to a minute of tension on the barbell, right? And that's immediately followed by like 4, 6, maybe even 10 minutes between sets because it's so heavy and so taxing. So even though your rep scheme is relatively short, midway through, at the end of the cycle, because you test twice. You test once midway through, and then you have 2 weeks of deload, and then you ramp it back up for the rest of the way. But you're working in that 2, 3, 4, 5 rep.
How long is a program like this?
It's 13 weeks if
Oh,
you
okay.
follow it to the letter. So, but your entire life is dedicated to that squat because your nervous system is so crushed from all that heavy lifting, and the squat in particular is one of those lifts where yes, everybody is geared towards the legs and the glutes and stuff like that, but it is indeed a total body lift.
So what's the goal? Somebody that would want it, let's say, why would somebody do this
So everybody
program?
promotes it as something that's going to boost your squat, double your squat, add 50% to your squat, whatever. If but all you're gonna do is squat, and that's the part that people miss. They incorporate this thing and they're like, okay, so I'll come in and I'll do today's small, I'll work out, and then I'll hop in on a CrossFit class. You don't have enough left in the tank for either one of those to be effective, right? So you need to, and I talk about this in my blog. You can look at it on michaelanders.com. I talk about it specifically. If you're not dedicated to caloric intake and recovery on top of cutting out all the extra stuff, small is not going to work for you. And that's the problem. And you watch it as people come into the CrossFit space all the time from the compartmentalized world of bodybuilding, chest day, leg day, arm day, back day, whatever. And they're like, okay, so I can do CrossFit and maintain my bodybuilding regimen. What they neglect to acknowledge is when we CrossFit, we're using every muscle group every day, right? And then you want to go ahead and smoke your chest completely, which takes 6 to 7 days to recover and get past baseline again. Well, good luck doing burpees tomorrow. Good luck with your strict press or your shoulder to overhead. You're completely ruining the intended training effect. So you can do some of that stuff, but you can't choose. Because the element of specificity holds true across all spectrums of fitness. I don't care what anybody says. And you have to subscribe to one program or the other to maximize the intended results. And if you don't do that, your results are going to be mediocre at best. And that's a fact.
Boom.
Knowledge
That
bomb.
makes sense. That makes sense. So I think just like sort of I appreciate you interjecting on that too, because I think to answer your question, when it comes to programming, you have to surround yourself with knowledge first, to come from a knowledge base and understand what your desired goal is in the end. Because you can go to any website and find that cut and paste workout that, the next biggest man or woman does or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to taper the programming down to your specific needs and how your body, where you are in your current fitness level, I would say at that point. Because, I subscribed, like I said, in my earlier days when I think was unintelligent. I was looking at how Arnold and those guys worked out, and I would do it by the book, and I was just like, I destroyed myself. So that was coming from a base of just like, if Arnold looks like that, if he could do it, I can do it. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. I need to, and when I became more knowledgeable about how my body worked and what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were, I was able to create programs around that to help me evolve as a at that time a football player, a bodybuilder, whatever have it. And now I'm doing that within CrossFitting and saying, okay, I'm understanding how the top guys are doing, Durs, Caleb, and Thatcher, how they're programming stuff. How can I start reverse engineering their success and tailoring that to my weaknesses and my strengths and improving from there? And I think that's a point where I would say, like, surround yourself with knowledge first before you jump into any boilerplate program that gets everybody 100-pound PRs in a week.
Yeah, I think that ultimately you have to give programming a chance first and foremost. Commit at least 90 days just to see where it goes and see how your body adapts to programming. Because especially, you see it all the time in the CrossFit space. People program hop all the time, and you see, all the top guys, the games competitors and stuff like that, some might bounce around to train together so that they can maximize the intensity of training. But that's like a day, a weekend, a photo shoot, but then they go home and they go right back to the regimen that they're on with zero deviation. And so they're committed to their programming, whatever it is, and it's geared towards their performance. So when it comes to programming and periodization, find somebody that knows what they're doing, can speak to it intelligently, and then for you as the athlete, the member, the client, give it 90 days for your body to truly react and adapt to the training, and then make a decision. But just like nutrition, nothing happens in 2 weeks, right?
Yes.
You have to allow your body time to adequately respond to the training, because otherwise, you're going to start this new regimen and you're just going to be sore as shit, and then that's it.
That's a wrap.
But yeah, the last thing I want to add to that is you're committing to the program, and to get the stay power, you have to convince yourself to get excited with what's coming from that. You're not just doing this program for a period of time to pass time and do training, like knowing that I think that there's a surprise at the end of the rainbow, or whatever the case is going to get you more excited on the days where you're feeling down or out. Like, know that you're doing this for a cause and a purpose. And I think that has to give you more confidence when you choose a program that it's going to get you into, get you closer to wherever that goal is or the results that you're looking for.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it takes consistency.
Yep. So, again, find a program that's logical and makes sense to you, and then ultimately you got to give it a chance, give your body a chance to respond, and like Jason said, be consistent with that process. Don't give up on it too soon, and if it's not working, don't stay with it for too long. But that's the fine balance that only comes with experience. So again, thank you guys for allowing us to be with you on your journey. This is Michael, Jason, and Jeff signing off. Feed Me, Fuel Me, episode 7. Be sure to subscribe to us and check us out on feedmefuelme.com, and we'll see you next time.
And there you have it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to check out the full show notes and get connected with us at feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to all of our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at feedmefuelme. We're looking forward to connecting with each and every one of you. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please rate, comment, and subscribe so we can continue on this journey together. Also, share it with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode and topics for future episodes as well. To close, we would love to leave you with a quote by Khalil Gibran. Progress lies not in enhancing what is, but in advancing towards what will be. Thank you again, and we will catch you on the next episode.